Hey guys, it's M4J here and welcome back to Global Ventures here on Planet Coaster. Now in today's episode, it's a little bit of a short one today. We're going to be finishing off the basic theming around Crazy Taxi. And by basic theming I basically mean, well, too many uses of the word basic there, but I essentially mean finishing off the bulk of the theming. So the buildings, the trees, the rocks, the bushes, that kind of thing. And get the ride to a point where it is basically considered finished, and I've used the word basically again there, we'll gloss over that. So it's essentially finished and could be opened. We're not actually going to open it yet because we're going to do some more building of other rides in the area. Next episode in particular we're going to focus on Gambate Ney once more and Tower, I've called it Tower 42, but actually I looked up on my list again and it's Tower 16 is what it should be called, so we'll be renaming that Tower 16. Anyway, I'm going to do sort of a brief commentary. Normally I have a conversation topic, but today I don't. Today I'm just going to talk about what you're basically seeing on the screen. I've really got to stop using the word basically. So what we're doing at the moment is we're just building some facades. Nothing too complex, nothing too sophisticated, simple facades. When you're in the queue for Crazy Taxi you will see that these are obviously facades. But when you're standing at streets side like you would be if you were walking around the paths, you'll see me in a second change the path type actually, so it looks more like a road than the pathway that it currently looks like. Just to fit in with the idea of you're actually in a city, you'll be walking down the road. Something else that I've forgotten to add with these paths, which I will be adding either off camera or at the start of next episode. Pathways, sidewalks. We need some more of those because it actually doesn't look much like city roads at the moment. It looks like sort of country roads where you do actually walk down the roadway as well as drive down it. We obviously don't want that. This is meant to be a city. It also doesn't look very Japanese at the moment either, but I do have a plan of how to get around that too. Here you see me starting to change the path. So I've gone with the really shiny black texture. Which apparently is part of the sci-fi pack. I wasn't aware of that myself, but I do know about it now. And it really does fit in with that sort of futuristic look that we're going for. Plus it looks like asphalt, so it works out quite well in terms of looking like a road. Now here I'm starting to build the restaurant for the area, and I say restaurant, it's basically a fast food outlet. There's nothing fancy about it. It's originally it was a chief beef and a gulpy soda. Now it's is it Siki Chika, I think it's called, which I know sounds, I mean it sounds Japanese, but I believe it is actually Hawaiian, but it kind of fits in with the theming. The reason I chose Tiki Chika is because it's got neon type signs like Gulpy does, so from the outside the building does look like one of those sort of futuristic restaurant signs that you do get in Japan. If anyone's heard of the robot restaurant in Tokyo, I've never been to it. I don't particularly want to go to it either from what I've seen, because it looks very loud, very noisy, very smoky, sort of bright lights flashing. Not really my sort of thing, but I have heard some good things about it, so who knows. If I ever get a chance to go to Tokyo, I might check it out. But it was that kind of idea that I was going for, not with the loud techno music and the neon and all of that, but the actual neon signs outside. So from the outside it might look like one of these robot restaurants. Inside it's a little bit more mundane. You can see now I was trying to build an extra pathway across to put more benches in. And there's something about this game, it just does not like me building paths the way I want to build them, which is very, very frustrating. But oh well. You see there, I've put some benches, I've put some bins, I put a street lamp in, I believe. Yes, I do. Or do I not? No, I don't. I will be putting lights in at some point. I probably attached to the ceiling thinking about it. Here I'm just putting in a raised floor in that centerpiece there. And a little raised floor there as well, although I believe I cover that up. Yeah, I do. Put a wall around it. And then I cover up the actual food and drink areas. Put a little archway over the entrance to the toilets, which I always like to tuck away if I can. You don't really want them on main display. You'd rather have them sort of put away somewhere where you can't really see them. But that's basically this restaurant done, and I've used the word basically again. You're just going to have to get used to it, I'm afraid. No one's complained, so I don't know why I'm defending myself, but there you go. That's the restaurant bit done for now. I'm not that happy with my building skills on this game still. It's something that I've noticed when I watch other people's videos. They build these rides where the theming of the ride is immaculate. It looks absolutely spectacular, wouldn't change a thing. But if you actually then look at their ride design, it's, I don't want to use the word terrible, but it really isn't very good. I want to be sort of in the middle. I want to be able to build rides that are really fun and well designed and well thought out, but at the same time I want to be able to theme them properly as well. And at the moment, I mean, Crazy Taxi is a good example of this. Having watched it over and over again, and there is a POV of the ride at the end of this video with the theming in place, it's not bad. You know, it's not terrible. The actual ride itself is pretty good, I would say, for what it's meant to be. My complaint really is I'm not that satisfied with the theming. I feel like the buildings themselves are very, very, very lightly done. There's no sort of heavy theming involved. There's enough to make it look like a cityscape, which is the exact sort of thing I was going for, but it just, there are parts where it just feels a little bit empty still. These buildings around the back here are a very good example of that. There will be something with future updates of the game. I will of course go back and redo these buildings or add more things to these buildings. I had a look at things like adding doors. Now I know you can do it because I've seen people do it, but trying to add doors and windows to these buildings, I just found it really, really difficult finding the right bits. And I think that's the problem with me is I'm a good improviser, but I'm not that great when it comes to things like Planet Coaster, where you have loads of scenery pieces for, I mean, they were made for specific purposes, but people have used them in other areas. So for example, there's no Egyptian theming in this game yet. There are bits that could be used for Egyptian theming, which I do plan on using for when I start building Valley of the Nile. But there's no specific Egyptian pieces, and yet I've seen videos on YouTube where people are using these pieces to create Egyptian type theming. I wouldn't know where to begin personally. I would find it really, really difficult, and that's my own personal grievance. I get that. It's the fact that my brain's built for design, and it's built for you know, building things, making them work. It's not really built for making things look good. That's where I would quite happily sit back and leave it to some of the master builders who played Planet Coaster, because they do such a good job. As I say, their ride designs might not be that great, but their theming is spot on, bang on the mark. They make something look exactly like it's supposed to look, and that's a real skill. That's not something that you can just go out and find. That's something that you really have to have been born with. Either that, or you spend hours and hours and hours practicing and doing it over and over again until eventually you get it right, which is kind of something I would like to do. But as I say, I will be revisiting the majority of these areas as the game gets more and more updates, because I bet that there will be updates that will add more scenery items to the different types of theming, and then you can go back and add more. In terms of this area is my sort of improvised area, because the other areas, maybe with the exception of the Egyptian area as well, but the other areas there are already scenery pieces that I can use to create the buildings, to make the theming, even though I had to improvise a little bit on Vibes, and I'm still not happy with that name. I still want to change the name of Vibes of the Bahamas to something a little bit more believable. But this is a real improvised one. So you've got these glass buildings which do look like skyscrapers and office blocks, which is perfect. It's exactly what I was going for. But they all look the same at the moment, because I can't really find anything to make them look different. The only ones that really do look different are the taxi rank, which is the shop as you leave Crazy Taxi, the station building of Crazy Taxi, because it's got a roller coaster going through the middle of it, and the restaurant, because it's got signs outside and it's got food stalls inside. They're the only ones really that are different. You can see here I took a little bit of a break. I was trying to find the name of the area for the buildings around the back. You see I've called it Game Convention, or I will call it Game. Have I called it that yet? I'm not sure if I have actually. But the building around the back, always had it in my mind because it's a futuristic area, kind of like Tomorrowland does at Disney. There's going to be an area where it displays the future in technology. Now that sounds very Disney-like for me, so I didn't want it to go down exactly that route. So I thought I'd make it a bit more niche. And I chose gaming because, as you guys will probably guess by now, I am a gamer. I describe it in all of my bios and all social media. I am a gamer. I play a wide variety of games as well. Even though you don't see them all on this channel, I do still play them. So I thought a games convention, like a year-long games convention, showcasing all of the future of technology in gaming, and every time there's something new it gets added to the exhibition. That was my sort of idea for this, one of the centerpieces of City of the Future. And the actual idea I still think is quite a strong one. How I'm going to do that and theme it, I've no idea. Might just use some scenery pieces and have people walk in and out, and that's it. And then just don't go in there very often with the camera. That would work quite well. But as there are more updates coming, you know, Frontier have promised lots and lots of different updates, lots of different DLC. I do imagine that in the future there will be something come out that I can just throw into that area and make it look convincing. Now the actual convention itself is going to be a walkthrough attraction. It's not just going to be a you walk in and walk out again. Kind of like how Madame Tussauds work with their waxworks museums these days, where you start off, let's say, go right up to the top, and then you work your way down, and then you come out again. So this building at the back here, which you've just missed, the one on the right hand side there that runs right along the back of Crazy Taxi, that's going to be the area where I would like to put it. Excuse me, stifling a sneeze there. Yeah, that'll be the area where I would like to put it. But we'll see. We will see. Obviously, we've still got to fit the dark ride in. I would quite like to fit in maybe a go-kart track as well, because I would like a go-kart track anyway, because they've put a lot of effort into making the go-karts realistic this time around. So it's not like in Roller Coaster Tycoon where there's sort of a race, but there's never really that much overtaking. I watched the Spring Update live stream where they were talking about how they've programmed the go-karts, and there are people that are genuinely competitive, there are people that just want to drive around, there's loads of overtaking, you know, there's constant speed changes. They've put a lot into it this time around. So I would like to reflect that by having a go-kart track. Now originally there was going to be a stand-up or a floorless or a twisting roller coaster in this area called Midtown Madness. If I build a go-kart track in this area, I would actually want that to have the name Midtown Madness. I think that would work better. I mean, a roller coaster is always going to be quite mad, but a go-kart track, the fact that the madness comes from within, it comes from the riders themselves rather than the way the ride is actually set up. I like that. I think it's quite a quirky idea. So we will consider that in the future. Pardon the pun. I mean, this whole zone's based on the future. You can see at this point though, we are finished with the main buildings for now. As I said, we will always revisit them. This park will never be finished, just like the Disney parks. It will never be finished. Every time something comes out that we can improve the park with, believe me, I will go back to these and improve them. One of the things I wanted to focus on here is sort of hiding the terraforming a little bit more, because I just don't like the way terraforming works with paths. It all feels a bit I don't want to say slapdash. I think it's one of the only areas of the game that I don't like is the terraforming. I think it's just a little bit not user friendly. If you know what you're doing and you do little chisel bits and things like that, then that's fine. But when you get an error message saying terrain not flat, and I know there are settings now where you can change that, but you end up with real ugly looking pathways and stuff if you go down that route. But for example, to get the queue line to connect back up to ground level, I had to go above ground level along a bit and then down again, which you just don't want in real life. In real life, you just want it gradually sloping down into the hole. So that was frustrating, but I don't know, we've kind of fixed it. This is just rock work and bush work to hide those bits of terraforming, so that it looks a little bit nicer. And the colours again are a little bit off. I tend to focus mainly on the greens and not so much on the reds and the yellows and the oranges. That's always something that I can go back and fix once more in the future. Wind just blew my door open there. But yeah, again, plant life is not something that I'm a huge fan of. It's not something that I'm particularly good at. I will never be afraid to admit what I'm not good at with this game. Theming is most definitely top of the list. Theming itself is only something that I've started doing more often within the last sort of 2 or 3 years. Before that, I didn't really bother. My favourite bit about Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 was you could build these fantastic buildings to house your rides in, and you never have to worry about what's on the inside because you never get to see it. The problem I had then with Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 was I liked watching my POV videos quite a lot, and every time you go and watch a POV you just see, oh, I've missed some theming there, I've missed some theming there. It's one of the reasons why I never uploaded my POVs to YouTube, was because I was really bad at theming. You end up with just big empty rooms where I'd say to myself, I'll put something in there at some point, and then never actually do it. But there you go. So the rock work here is almost complete. The idea is this is meant to look like a hole that's just been dug into the ground, which is why there's all these jagged rocks, and I mean, it's fairly obvious it's a hole in the ground. The whole ride is below where it should be. It's built below ground level. I still think that drop going into the loop is probably the best drop on a roller coaster I've built so far in this game. Something about it, the fact that you can sort of see it from the queue, but even then, I'm pretty sure you won't realise the magnitude of just how steep that drop is until you're actually going down it. And then you suddenly realise it's beyond vertical. I think it was it 110 I made it? So it's one of the steepest drops in the world. The record is 124, I believe, by, ironically, a Japanese roller coaster, Takabisha, at Fuji Q Highland, I think it is. Steepest roller coaster in the world. Yeah, Fuji Q Highland, Takabisha. Again, I've butchered the pronunciation, I'm sure, so apologies for that. 121 degrees. Now that's too much for me. I think 110 is just enough, so you get that feeling of you're going to fall out of your seat, but at the same time, the ride doesn't look ridiculous. If you actually look at the drop, Takabisha, the 121 degree drop, it looks like something out of, in fact, this game, the type of Eurofighter model where you just get that weird. In fact, the best example is in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. You had the Drop Tower coaster, I think it was called, where it went over the top and then it just looped around to a 90 degrees. So you were essentially upside down, and then it would flip 90 degrees again, and then you just ran vertically down the tower. I had no idea why they decided to do it like that. It just looked so stupid. It didn't look that well thought out at all. It was just steep drop. Let's build a steep drop, and it just didn't fit. I never liked it. I never used it. Really didn't like it. And I just feel like Takabisha looks just like that, where they've built this really steep drop. They've gone for the record. They've got the record, and the reason no one else has tried to beat the record, probably because physically it would be very difficult to actually try and build a ride that is steeper than that. Because you get to the point where it's basically just running horizontally but upside down. and you're not going to build up any speed from that. You're going to end up with this really high drop just so they can have this really stupid steep section. Also, my personal opinion, once you start going beyond vertical, it's no longer steep, it's just flattening out but upside down. So I still think steep really is like 90 degrees, maybe 100 tops. Anything beyond that and it's just like getting a 90-degree drop and taking off the excess. So in this case it's going to be a 59-degree drop essentially, because that's the angle that it now goes at. So it's, I don't know. My opinion, it's not that great, but you know, my opinion isn't the only one that counts. Your opinions matter as well. So let's start a conversation in the comments section. What's your opinion of steep roller coasters? Where do you think the line should be drawn? I've stated my case. I'm very interested to hear what you guys think as well. But that is the end of the time lapse. We're now going to have a short POV just showing you what the coaster now looks like completed. And then that's it for me in this episode. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you enjoyed the series, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support, and until next time, I will see you soon.